Avoidance, Chapter 8, Sidman. Avoidance is another form of negative reinforcement. Despite seeming to look like future orientation, avoidance is actually escape behavior. Sidman states that the easiest way to expose a number of features associated with avoidance, escape, and punishment that are critical for understanding coercion is to look at experiments done in the laboratory. One such experiment is where a rat experiences a shock when a dim light shines in his chamber. He can prevent the shock by pressing a lever and eliminate the shock. The light becomes a useful warning signal for the rat to extinguish the shock. Over a period of time, the rat will learn to prevent shocks by turning off the lever as soon as the light comes on. He uses avoidance. Humans have learned to do the same. We avoid shocks and also hand out shocks as punishment. We eventually learn to avoid those who punish. We learn also to punish. He also learns that we have learned avoidance based on past experience with a shock previously prevented to us. Sidman explores two myths as causes. The first is expectancies. He describes this as trying to bring future control back into the present. He states that, and I quote, "To seek the cause of action in the past and present instead of the future is an advance in behavioral analysis. To postulate expectancy as an explanation, however, is a verbal trick." Close quote. And this is found on page 127. This is focusing on explaining rather than giving an explanation for the expectancies. The second myth is about fear and anxiety. These are words that are often used in psychology and psychiatry. These are feelings and emotions that are experienced internally and often override the external factors that are the shocks that precede these feelings. Due to the physiological signals that accompany these feelings, increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, etc., it can become overwhelmingly hard to see the other signals of the shocks that have sent us into avoidance mode. Avoidance is not always bad. It can keep us safe and out of danger. For example, if you tell your children, don't touch a hot stove, don't cross the street in traffic, and stuff like that. Those are things they learn to avoid in order to stay safe. A second experiment was done where the subject was shocked every 20 seconds without warning. If the subject presses the lever, they have a safe period for 30 seconds. rats, humans, monkeys, several different types of animals were used to test this theory. The monkeys were an anomaly, as they went days without getting shocked because they consistently pressed the lever to avoid being shocked. This proved the scientist's theory that coercion can go unrecognized even in the outside world. Here's a question for today. Sidman believes that even professional clinicians often fail to appreciate how coercive control may generate seemingly pathological conduct. And that is important because, like the monkeys who just banged on the lever continuously, no sleep, no rest, no eating, they just kept banging because they did not want to get shocked. We have humans who will do whatever they can to avoid the shocks that keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. They avoid people, they avoid situations, they just avoid. And that is because of coercion. So, if you were treating a client, and you can choose any age, who had self-mutilation issues, whether they are cutting, they're biting, hitting, whatever, but they're harming themselves. And after about 3 months of treating, and you thought you were doing great, they were reporting that they were feeling better, they were following all the protocols, all your intervention plan, etc. And then you discovered that they had been hiding pathological tendencies because basically they had been lying to you, because instead of harming themselves, what they had started to do in order to continue doing what they had been getting, that same feeling they had been getting previously, they had started harming whether animals, harming others, or destroying, like whether it was dolls or whatever, but it elicited the same thing because whether they were cutting or whatever, but they were doing harm to something else. How would you handle that? Feel free to discuss as you like.